Hi, my beautiful friends. I always love chatting with you guys. I get so excited jumping on to do a podcast. It's like it's just bursting out of me. I have so many ideas that I want to share. And today is a follow-up of the last, it's almost like a little 3-part mini series that I didn't intend to do when I recorded the first episode 2 episodes ago, 3 episodes ago, this is the third, around how I manifested our dream waterfront living. Then I wanted to teach you guys the energetics behind it to help you understand your energy, help you understand the law of attraction, the law of vibration, so that you can actually put into practice what I have. And then I thought about it and thought, I can't cram it all in that last episode. I need to do another episode on teaching you why. It's not so much the how, but the why. It is so important to look after yourself, to look after your earthy angel body, right? Your earthy physical body with self-care, with nourishment, with exercise, with movement, and to look after your spiritual body. Obviously, the mind's in there as well, which I'll talk to you about. But the deep fundamental meaning behind earthy angels is is like bridging the physical with the spiritual, bridging them together, and how when you actually take the most exquisite care of you, why it's worth it, how it can lead to a more fulfilling life, how it can lead to a more heart-centered, soul-centered life, that you are living from your heart, that you are living a life that makes you happy, that makes you fulfilled, that makes you feel like you have purpose, that you're excited by, that you're getting what you want, because we're here for our most amazing life experience. Yes, we're going to have joy, we're going to have sorrow, we're going to have hard times, we're going to have happy times. We're not going to sit in this little rainbows and unicorns and butterflies all the time. I absolutely understand that we are going to have challenges along the way that form us to become stronger, that shape us to who we're meant to be. And there are some bigger challenges that we might not understand in our physical bodies, in our physical 3D self, because our soul incarnated here, this is what I believe anyway, that we incarnated here with lessons that we need to learn for our soul to evolve, that we have things that we have to go through that we signed up for on the other side before we come into this body, to learn the lessons, to take the meaning, to take the lessons, to have the life experience for our soul to grow and evolve. So there's definitely a lot of things I don't understand, you don't understand, but I think are part of our life journey. However, what I want to talk about is how you can make your physical and spiritual experience here the best that you possibly can, and how you can kind of get back on track, and how you can manifest what you want. Manifestation is probably a word that I think is very loosely thrown around now, but I'll talk to you a little bit about that as we go through this episode. But I really want to teach you about why, not the how so much, but the why you need to take care of your vessel. You have one body to get you through life, and you need to take the absolute most exquisite care of it. And then I believe that we have this soul body, like we've got this higher self that we align with, that gives us wisdom, that teaches us, that tells us what to do. But often we're so stuck in living in this physical world, or we're stuck in the busyness, that we don't listen to it. And when we strip back a few layers of ego, when we start to take care of ourselves, get out of the rat race a little bit, it's like we awaken ourselves to listen to this higher self a little bit more, that is guiding us along this life journey. And that's the goal, my friends, to remember who you are, to connect with your soul, so that you can live your most fulfilled life experience. So today's episode is all around why you need to take care of yourself, your physical body, your earthy body, I can't get my words out, but also like how prioritizing them can lead to manifesting your desires. Because when you change your energy, you change your life. That's something I heard by Joe Dispenza. Listen to that again. When you change your energy, you change your life. So a lot of the practices that I'm going to talk to you about help you shift your state, help you change your vibration, help you get into that frequency with what you want to attract, instead of just reacting to what life throws at you. And I know that we're all at different stages in our life along our journey. You know, I'm sitting here in my 40s, mid 40s. What did my daughter say the other day? She goes, "Mum, you're pushing 50. I said, "Riley, I'm not that old. Like I'm 40, 46, almost 47. And so it's easy for you to go, well, it's easy for you. You know, your kids are grown up. You have time. It's easy for you to kind of do a lot of this spiritual stuff or take care of yourself. You have time. I'm telling you, I've been doing this for a very long time, since my kids were little. So I'm not teaching you anything I haven't done. My priorities have changed along the way, where sometimes I might invest more in the physical, sometimes it might be more in the spiritual. There have been times I've been more in the mental, but I've been looking after myself since my kids were little. Since Riley was 2, Brock was 6 months, was the first time I actually consistently started going to the gym, and I haven't stopped, okay? So she's now 21 almost, and I have not stopped taking care of myself. So don't think it's easy for you right now because you're older. Man, I've been doing this since my kids were little, since I was running, you know, like my husband has always been working ridiculous hours. I felt like I was raising the kids on my own sometimes, and I would still make it work, and I would still find time for me because it come down to my priorities. There's been times pre-kids, you know, like I started doing yoga when my kids were younger, before I had kids. Sorry, before I had kids was when the first time I started practicing yoga. And then I really went through, you know, like the kind of pregnancy, start a little bit, and then got really consistent when they were 2 and 6 months old, and seriously have not stopped taking care of myself, have been working out ever since then. So that's like 20 years, okay? So there are no excuses. And that's why I wanted to tell you that. Like, cut the bullshit. Like, there's no more excuses. It's easy sometimes to kind of have those little, you know, it's okay for you or other people can do it, I can't. Like, that's all a load of bullshit. Like, if you can find a way to do some kind of self-care, it comes down to prioritizing and getting real with yourself and getting rid of the excuses. I know that sounds really blunt, but I just say it how it is on this podcast, and I just share from the heart, and I say it with love, my friends. I honestly say it with love, but I also tell you things that I've tell myself, okay? So this is the kind of thing that I've been telling myself all these years, like, you can make time for it, you can prioritize it. Because there are a lot of busier people out there that make it work, so you can too. That's what I've always told myself. And so I've been doing this since my kids were little, and I believe in the compounding effect of your actions compound over time. It's just your actions multiplied by time gives you the results of where you are right now, okay? And so what I've found is just by doing a lot of these little things, which I'm going to talk to you about, right throughout the last almost 20 years, have put me in such a good feeling state most of the time that has honestly led to me manifesting so much of what I want. And again, I'll talk to you about the real meaning behind manifestation, okay? So no, I'm not lucky. I've worked. Like, I've definitely worked at it. There's definitely some, I guess you would say luck, but there's definitely some a bit of magic on my side. I definitely believe in that. And what you think about, you know, your thoughts are just beliefs that you continue, your beliefs are your thoughts that you continue to think over and over again. So I definitely know that that is a belief that I have, that things line up for me, that life flows easily and effortlessly for me, that I always get what I want. So I've had to work hard at putting these thoughts in and catching the thoughts when they're negative or when they're in a bit of a funk and going, okay, how can I turn this around? So I haven't sat in this perfect bubble all the time. I've had times of challenges. I've had times of, you know, stress. I've had times of heartache like everybody else, but it's getting yourself back into alignment, you know? And I've had people say to me, you know, like, everything always works out for you. And I'm here to tell you that a lot of it comes down to my dominant beliefs. A lot of it comes down to the way that I have started to recondition, I've been doing it for a long time, recondition my subconscious mind and my subconscious beliefs. I've reprogrammed them through a lot of the things that I am going to do, to tell you about now. I have had times where over the years, Tom and I, you know, young couple with little kids, we've invested time, we've invested money into weekend conferences, into seminars, into running business, into courses, into teacher trainings. I was juggling teacher trainings with the yoga, the Pilates, the bar, all of that. Why I was running a PT business, had younger kids, Tom was running a business. So we've all been busy and we have all got stuff going on, every single one of us, but it's getting back to the self-care, getting back to taking care of yourself, getting back to doing all of these fundamental things like reading. It comes down to priorities, right? Like, instead of turning the TV on, I would go and I'd read a book. So it's all these little things that I've been doing over the years that compound over time to give me the results that I want. There are still things I'm working on. There are still things that I do not have. And I know that I have to reprogram my beliefs and I have to get out of my own way. Absolutely. We are all going to be working on ourselves until the day we die. But it comes down to priorities. It comes down to decisions. Where do you invest your time? And I would choose to invest into reading books. Like, I've been doing the personal development for over 15 years, for a really long time, like choosing, I'm not reading novels, I'm reading books on personal development, spiritual development, money, mindset, health, fitness, spirituality, relationships, like all of these things have just been like filtering into my subconscious beliefs, changing my perspective, changing my outlook, changing my attitude, and putting me more in a feel-good state. I've been protective of my mindset. I've been very, very careful about who I hang around, who I let affect my energy. Have I done that all the time? No. But over time, I've started to become more aware of it, that I have started to become more conscious of who I hang around, more conscious of what I let filter in, more conscious of what I follow on social media, because I know it affects my energy. Remember what I said? When you change your energy, you change your life. I've been getting up to go to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning forever, for a long time, pre-kids, with little kids, as my kids have gotten older, juggling all these things. It comes down to decisions. It comes down to where you spend your time, what you prioritize. And often excuses are they're just a way to justify your current behavior and your results that you've gotten so far. So what I want you to do is have a clean slate, okay? I want you to forget the excuses, forget just forget about what you've previously thought. And I just want you to have an open mind moving forward, okay? No more excuses, because all they do is block you from getting what you want. They don't affect me. They don't affect your neighbor. They don't affect your friends. They affect you, my friends. So I want you to start getting rid of the excuses that I don't have time, the excuses that it's easy for you, the excuses of whatever comes up for you. Get rid of them right now, because you're going to do yourself the biggest favor, okay? So what I found over the years is, and the reason I want to talk to you about all of this today is, we all want certain things in life. We all have desires. We all have goals. We all feel like we're lacking in certain areas of our life. And we all have certain dreams that we want to fulfill, or goals that we want to achieve, or wealth that we want to have, or relationships that we want to have. And when you take exquisite care of yourself, it puts you in more of a feel-good state. If you go back to the last episode that I spoke about how there's ask, believe, and receive, okay? So asking, when you take care of yourself, it helps get clarity. It helps get your mind a little bit clearer. When you're reading books, you're listening to podcasts. Man, I used to listen to, before there were podcasts, I used to be in Network 21 and Amway in my early 30s. I learned so much from that business. I used to say to Tom, why doesn't everyone do personal development? This is just ridiculous. Everybody should be going to seminars or going to conferences or just bettering themselves, because it helps their family, it helps their relationships, it helps their mindset. So back then I was listening to CDs, right? I would buy CDs, I would, listen to anything I could get my hands on, because I wanted to improve my mindset. And I found that through listening to CDs, or audios or podcasts or reading books, I started to get more clarity in what I wanted. I started to discover myself a little bit more, that I started to see this correlation between when I work on my personal development, when I work on my mindset, then it started to dive into spiritual development. I've actually got a little bit more clarity around what I want. I know what my goals are. I started to write down dreams lists and write down things that I wanted, big dreams, little dreams, which is part of the manifestation process, right? Step 1, ask. But a lot of people don't ask because they just don't know what they want, or they don't believe that they're worthy of having it, or they don't want to dream big or think big because of our past or current conditioning, who you hang around, what you listen to, what you watch on TV. Do you throw your brain at the TV every night? So it kind of is about all of these habits of what you've been doing, or the way you've been brought up, the way you've been conditioned, bring you to this point in your life where you're at right now, and your current thoughts and beliefs are based on all of these external factors that have been filtrating into your mind, into your subconscious programming since you're a child, since you're a baby, since you was, since you come into this existence. We've been conditioned by people and influences all around it, whether we like it or not, right? So then I started to discover, the more that people would just react to life. You just get busy. You just get stuck in this rat race, that you get stuck in working just this same routine over and over again, that nobody would kind of stop and just actually look at where they're sitting right now. Ask themselves, am I happy? Ask themselves, is there more to life? Is there more that I could be doing for myself? Could I be more fulfilled? Am I allowed to want more things? Because we would feel guilty that we're not allowed to ask for these things, or who am I to ask for these things? And so what I started to understand was the more that I worked on my mindset, the more I got a little bit more clarity. I started to understand more of what I wanted, and I thought, I don't want to settle anymore. Like, I want to live a life by design, a life that I create, and not a life by default. Like, that was really crystal clear many, many years ago. So I kept taking care of myself. I kept listening to books or reading books or listening to audios and getting a bigger picture and changing my perspective and starting to let go of some of the past conditioning, right? So that's one of the powers in taking care of yourself, is you start to get a little bit more clarity. Then the more that you would work on self-discovery through the spiritual beliefs, through letting go of things that I had been conditioned to. We all get conditioned a certain way. The more I started to dive into a lot of this spiritual stuff, and it started with yoga. I believe that yoga is a way of getting connected with you start moving your body and you get more connected to your soul. So the more I would come into yoga, the more I would work out, the more I would take care of myself, the more I'd prioritize time for meditation, I started to get a lot more belief in myself. I started to get connected to myself. I started to notice, because it comes back to awareness. I started to become aware of the thoughts I was thinking. I started to become aware of the little thoughts that would just creep in without me even realizing, and how I had to kind of stop that thought, let it go, and go, no, that's not the truth. I don't want to believe that anymore. So by going on an inwards journey and realizing that I'm not going to rely on external sources all the time, I'm going to get more connected with myself, I started to change my state. I started to change my beliefs. I started to change the way I thought. And that comes from a lot of soul searching, going on retreats, doing kinesiology, doing all of those things that really worked on myself and got to know myself a lot deeper. The journaling, I would journal all the time, and I would get really clear. I would ask myself questions, and I would get really clear with my journaling that I would start to get a little bit of guidance would come through, answers would come through. I'd discover a little bit more about myself. Then I thought, hang on a sec, there's a little bit more to this spiritual stuff than meets the eye, right? Getting out, connected to nature. Like they say, the vibration of nature is perfect. I found getting out, connected to nature, sitting in silence, just noticing everything that was all around me, instead of having AirPods in, or instead of being in this constant chatter of noise, of TV, of radio, and getting into the silence and sitting in the now. I started to understand the power in my energy that we create from the now, that you can set intentions in the now. You can ask for what you want in the now. You can change your limiting beliefs in the now, that you can have more gratitude in the now. So getting more connected to nature and taking care of myself that way, I started to understand more about myself, more about my power of living in the moment. And the more that we do this work on ourselves, the more that we would clear the blocks. I would notice blocks that were there all along, but I hadn't noticed them before, right? Because you start to get more connected to yourself. You start to be aware of your thoughts. You realize that your beliefs are just a thought that you continue to think over and over again. So I started to become aware of my thoughts, which come from doing a lot of the inner work. I started to realize that sitting out in the sun, watching sunrise, feeling the sun, like the sun almost, it sounds really bizarre, but the sun almost become this spiritual mentor for me, because I felt that being out in the sun first thing in the morning, or sitting watching the sunset, it's almost like I got these whispers from my soul speaking to me, getting out connected in nature a lot more. I discovered that through yoga, through exercise, through movement, that it can move the stress through your body. It can clear toxicity. It can kind of move it and shift it, and emotion, shift it through your body. So I just started to see, hang on a sec, all of these little things that I'm doing are putting me in a better feeling state. They're raising my beliefs. They're raising my self-awareness. They're raising my expectancy. They're getting me clear on my values. They're helping me understand more of what I want. They're helping me sit in the now a little bit more. They're helping me to discover the power of gratitude. And I would take more and more time out for reflection. There was times my kids were little when I went on my first retreat. They were in school and I went away for a whole week, and I encouraged my husband to do things for himself as well. And but going away gives you that time out to get so connected to yourself and get away from the chaos, the busyness, to really discover more about yourself. So I started dreaming a bit bigger on my retreats. I was working through blocks. I was writing down. I had a vision for the studio and started to think to myself, hang on a second, I'm not too old to go back and start doing some more training and to have these bigger dreams, because we get this block, I'm too old, or, like whatever block comes up for you can stop you from actually creating what you want. So the more you spend a little bit of time on your own, the more you discover more about yourself, the more that you can dream build, which helps in that manifestation process. And I started to discover that as your soul connects with your higher self, the fears of the mind no longer dominate my heart the way it used to, because I started to think, hang on, these fears are just thoughts that I keep thinking. They're not real. I'm blocking myself. So you start to become aware of your thoughts. You start to become aware of your fears and how your mind dominates your existence rather than living from this heart space wisdom. So I decided I don't want to live in the worry, the doubt as much. I want to tune into my soul's own potential. I want to gain more confidence. I want to have more empowerment. I want to grow. I want to live in more alignment. And all of these things, my friends, come from consistency. Consistency will get you there. Consistency of showing up for you. Consistency in taking care of your body. Consistency in doing the mindset work. Consistency in affirmations of self-love, consistency in showing up for you, consistency in taking care of your vessel. I started to understand, hang on, this is impacting my life in more ways than I know. It's not just, so I decided to discover working out is not just a way to feel good. Working out is not just a way to look good. Working out was like one of the first things I did that led to the mindset work, that led to the soul work, that I started to kind of put this trifecta together, and I started to discover, hang on, all these things I'm doing to take care of myself are actually helping me get what I want in life, right? Because I started to notice the more I care for myself, the more it impacts my relationship, the more I have more confidence, I have more worth, I feel better in myself. So what does that do? It ripples out into your relationships, it ripples out into your career, it ripples out into your finances, it ripples out into those people around you, it ripples out into your children. So I started to see, I'm becoming a better mother. I'm becoming a better person to be around. I'm having more confidence and worth in myself by taking care of myself. And what does that do, girls? It raises your vibration. It raises your energy. And remember what I said in the last episode? You vibrate at a certain frequency. So you put this frequency out into the universe. So you attract, you align, you bring in that same belief system, that same frequency, that same, it's almost like what you think you become, because you start to see your worth, you start to feel your worth, you start to feel good in yourself. And remember what Esther Hicks said? She says it's about allowing. It's about receiving, not forcing, not controlling. So the better you feel, the more you live in that state of joy, the more I found that things started to come to me that I wanted, and I started to see it was a bit more effortless. It was starting to show up a little bit easier. Does that make sense? That is how I found that connecting with your own light, that connecting with this your own precious empowering gift by living in harmony with your soul values, because I got clearer on my values as opposed to what most people do, typically live in this soul denying property of mass consciousness by falling into the trap of doing what everybody else does, by falling into the rat race, by just having to compare, compete, fit in, keep going, and live in this constant stress and tension. And what does that do? It lowers your vibration. It lowers your frequency. I have women that come into the studio and they go, I'm just so tired. Like nothing is working out for me. I'm just so tired. I have no self-esteem. I have no worth. I have no belief in myself. I'm just over everything. And it can just take one thing I just get them in the studio and just start moving your body. Just give yourself an hour a week, just have this little bit of space to take care of you. And then they start to see that they're feeling better in themselves, because it gives you that kind of feel good energy, that gives you those endorphins, that hit of this actually makes me feel good. So then what happens? You want to just come a little bit more and a little bit more and step into the studio or go for a walk or do a few more things. And it can start with just one action, my friends, just one action, and going, you know what? I'm just going to start doing one thing for my body this week. Then you start to see it. Girls would come to me and they would say, since I've been coming to the studio, I just feel so good. I feel good learning from you. I feel good. I've started reading this book, or I've started listening to this podcast, or I've started eating better. And I don't know what's happened to me. I'm just happier. I've had women come back from retreat go, it's the happiest I've ever felt. And I'm like, you know why? You've connected with your soul. You're getting in alignment with who you are. You're remembering who you are. You're doing this little bit of work on yourself. And it's like this light switch goes on. And it sends these signals out into the universe. They're getting more into that feel-good state. So they start thinking more improved thoughts. They have a better improved attitude. So they're raising their frequency. They're raising their vibration, that they're bringing more things into their life from what they want. But it comes down, my friends, to this co-creation with the universe. So let me give you an example. It was so funny. Riley come home the other night and I was talking to her. We were having dinner and she said to me this story. She said, she was talking to someone who knows me and said, so they were talking about manifestation, right? And this is a really good question that Riley had, because it gets them thinking, right? Like, I don't want them to just believe everything I say. I want them to question. I want them to form their own beliefs, and I want them to think about it. And she said, so this person said, well, your mum didn't manifest. I'm talking about my car, right? Did your mum actually manifest a car, or is it because her Jeep broke down that she had to get a new car and she got what she wanted? She goes, so is that true? And I said, and I actually didn't even have to say anything, because I thought to myself, well, there's an element of what she's saying that is right, okay? Absolutely. And then Tom pipes up and Tom said, Riley, it's not about that. Yeah, we know her car broke down, but that's not why. What the process of manifestation, he said she manifested the car that she wanted. She had this vision of what she wanted, and it came about without her really trying. The exact car, because he goes, remember, like Mum was saying that she wanted all these things. If you go back to my episode, and Riley was like, Mum, maybe you should just settle, because I had this tick list of everything that I wanted in this car. It was on my vision board. She's like, it just sounds too hard, like you might just have to settle for another one. You might just have to settle for one with a grey interior. And I said, Riley, I only need one. Like, there's one car out there that ticks every box. And that's what Tom was saying. He said, yes, it's not about the car breaking down and yes, her getting a new car. It's about the process of how she got what she wanted. And that's what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about now, okay? Because I want you to question. I want you to, like Riley did, I want you to ask these questions, and I want you to get an understanding for what manifestation means and how it actually works and what the definition is, because people think to manifest things, it's just like you think about it and it appears like this magic genie. It just gives you what you want, right? And there's an element to that has some truth, but it's this co-creation with the universe. You have to have your part too. You have to play your part. You have to actually do some aligned actions. It comes back to taking actions as well. And it was all about, if you go back to that episode, I said, Riley, the episode was called From Funk to Aligned New Car, okay? What I learned in that process was I was in a funk with my car breaking down and a whole heap of other things, and how I shifted it. And I got my mindset, I shifted my mindset, and it actually got me thinking a little bit different. And it got me thinking about how maybe this is what I'm meant to do, and how the universe kind of pushed me in that direction of getting this new car, because it come from a challenge. It come from something that actually happened that was not part of my plan, right? That was definitely not part of my plan. However, this car was on my vision board for a long time. The interior, the dash, everything was on my vision board for a long time. And so what happened was, I won't go into it too much now. Go back and listen to the episode. But yes, the challenge is what caused me to get a new car. Absolutely. But the timing of the car dropping into my lap, the effortless unfolding of the car, the price that I wanted for the car, how that all unfolded, following the signs, following the synchronicities. That is what I'm talking about, and how this new car lined up. So what I mean by that is there's a part of co-creation, right? So you have to play your part as well. If you look at people, like there's people that I follow, like for instance, this girl I follow, she's got a big supplements company, and she talks a lot about manifestation, and she talks a lot about having this dream life and how she's living her dream life. But then go back to the beginning when she talks about her story when she was a lawyer and realized that this is not what she wanted to do. She didn't just manifest this dream life at the drop of a hat, like didn't just kind of wish it into existence and it just landed like that. She had to work at it. Other manifestation teachers that I listen to as well all talk about the process of who they become in the process of getting what they want, but they don't just wish it. So I'm not telling you that you can just go, okay, I just wish for a new car, boom, it just magically lands in my lap. That has happened. Like definitely things like that can happen. Like this house that we just moved into, I wasn't ready to move yet. I wasn't thinking that, you know, it's just, I didn't win the house, right? Like there were definitely steps that I had to take along the way, but I had the vision of what I wanted. Like some of these other people, you know, this girl had the vision of the life that she wanted to create it, but she had to do some of the work to get there. She had to believe in herself. She had to get crystal clear on what she wanted. You have to get out of your way and get rid of the blocks, those limiting beliefs that hold us back and keep us small. For her to develop into this multi-million dollar business that she has, it didn't just magically happen, right? It looks like it on the outside. However, there is actions that need to be taken along the way. The actions are doing the inner work. The actions are taking care of yourself. The actions are getting your mindset right. The actions are getting rid of your limiting beliefs. The actions are getting into alignment, are getting into that feel-good state. And so it comes back to when you do these things, the universe gives you breadcrumbs. The universe gives you hints along the way. The universe lines things up for you. Your job is to get out of your way and receive. Your job is to get out of the way and just hold that higher vibrational frequency so that you see the breadcrumbs, so that you see the little coincidences, the little things that drop in your lap, the little signs, little synchronicities, and so that you actually start to take some of the actions. You can get thoughts pop into your mind. You can run into people. You can get opportunities that cross your path, but you're the one that has to take action in the process, my friends. That's why they call it a co-creation with the universe. You know, like we have to do some things along the way as well. But yes, things can unfold for you. Things can absolutely unfold for you easily and effortlessly. And the more you get connected to yourself, the more you take care of yourself, sometimes you find that they become a little bit more effortless because it's like you're tuning into this radio station and you're tuned in, like your ears are open a little bit more, your soul's open a little bit more to listen to those whispers, to see the breadcrumbs, to notice the signs, to notice the synchronicities, because you're getting so connected with yourself. So does that make sense? Because what often happens is people feel like it's too hard. People don't do the work. People don't do the work on themselves that I've just been talking about because they might feel lazy. They might not have the energy to. They might be so overwhelmed and stressed and tired and fatigued and burnt out, and their life is already full of things that they're doing, that I want to give you permission today. I want to give you inspiration today that you might have to move some things out of your life just a little bit to create space for you to bring in some self-care. It could be things like turning the TV off. It could be things like not spending time with people that don't align with you. It could be things like getting to bed a little bit earlier. All these little things of self-care are going to help you get more into that better feeling state. Have the courage to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Ask the universe for what you want. Set intentions. Have the vision. Your job, remember, the universe's job is the how, and then your job is to get out of the way, and your job is to actually open up to see. Your job is to get into the receiving state. Your job is to take the best care of yourself so that you can get into that better feeling state. Let me take you back to that story that I was talking to you about my car, okay? So I want to share with you manifestation. I looked up in the dictionary the word manifestation, because people sometimes think that it is almost like this genie in a bottle. To manifest something, I just ask and it just lands in my lap magically. And so if I ask and I don't get it, then this shit doesn't work, right? That's what they think. It doesn't work. I wrote it down here, okay? So the definition of manifesting, because I believe that manifestation is experiencing or living or bringing to life your desires or your intentions or your dominant beliefs. The dictionary says the word actually means clear or obvious to the eye, evidence or proof, incarnation, form is being taken. So it's like you're bringing your desires to reality through your focused thoughts and beliefs and actions, okay? It doesn't mean a magic genie just drops it in your lap. It is bringing your desires into your reality through focused thoughts, beliefs, and actions. So that's where the work is for you, is working on your thoughts, your beliefs, and taking actions, is by getting the blocks out of the way, working through the blocks, working through the limiting beliefs, taking actions. That's what the process of manifestation involves, is we have to do a little bit of work. We have to do some of the work on ourselves, okay? We have to actually pay attention to the signs that the universe is dropping to us. We have to get more connected to our soul. We have to get clear on our intentions. We have to work on rewiring our subconscious beliefs. And that is a little bit of work involved. There absolutely is. And you can look for evidence and beliefs of why the manifestation process doesn't work for you, or you can actually have an understanding, have an open mind, and have curiosity to go, I'm just going to see, right? I'm just going to play around with it. I'm just going to get out of my way, and I am going to think about it a little bit more. I'm going to open myself up to seeing that there might be a bigger possibility for me. I'm going to open myself up to allowing myself to learn a little bit more. I'm going to open myself up to receive my desires. I'm just going to have an open mind and be curious, and I'm just going to start working on my beliefs a little bit. I'm going to start working on my blocks a little bit. I'm going to start improving my thoughts that little bit more. I'm going to start taking better care of my body, and I'm going to actually put myself in a place where I feel a little bit better. Just every single day, what can I do? One little thing that I can do for myself to make myself feel a little bit better. Because if you stay stuck doing exactly what you're doing now, there's no magic, crystal ball. There's no magic crystal ball. Nothing is going to change for you. So I started to think many years ago, well, I may as well do things a little bit different. I may as well open my mind a little bit more. I may as well do a little bit of work on myself. I may as well just open myself up to the possibility that what if this stuff is actually true? What if I can actually have a bit more of what I want? But I needed to get out of my way. And what do most people do? Most people won't do anything because it's hard, right? Working on yourself and looking at your stuff is hard. Taking time to do meditation is hard. Going to a yoga class or taking time out to exercise, it's hard. You have to have that intrinsic motivation to do these things. And maybe, what if you grow into the person in the process that is the version of you that can attract and align with that of which you want? What if that was a possibility for you? What if you could actually open yourself up to more of life's desires, your heart and soul's desires? What if you had the courage to get out of your comfort zone a little bit more? What if it led you to what you wanted to do, to what you wanted to have, to what you wanted to become? Be aware of your thoughts. Be aware if you're playing small. Be aware if you're blocking yourself. Be aware if you have no worth in yourself. Be aware if you don't feel that you are worthy. Be aware if you don't feel that you are good enough, that you're successful enough, that you're smart enough. You are. It's already in there. You just have to get out of your way. I'm telling you, I had so many beliefs around not being good enough, not being worthy enough, not being smart enough, that I have to go, is that the actual truth? No, it's not. It's just a thought that I continue to think. And the more I would journal, the more I would get out of my way, the more that I would shift my beliefs, the more I started to see my worth, the more I started to believe in myself, the more I started to open myself up to go, I am actually worthy of my desires. I can actually have what I want. I need to get out of my own way. And so to you, our job is to take the aligned action. Our job is to get in the receiving mode. Our job is to be aware of our thoughts. And notice, like I said, when you go back into that last episode, around that 17 to 68 seconds that Esther Hicks talks about, catch your thought. In that 17 seconds is where the power lies. Do you keep going with the negative thoughts, or do you pivot and do you replace it with thoughts of gratitude, thoughts of you want, and keep telling the story of what you want? Are you bringing in your desires with your thoughts? Are you blocking them by negativity? Or are you allowing the good thoughts in? Start to become aware of your thoughts. And your job is to get into the receiving mode. My friends, when you take care of yourself, when you look after your body, it gets you in the receiving mode because you feel so much better in yourself. You feel happier. You feel more confident. You feel more empowered, and you start to shift your beliefs around your worth. It's like there's people that seem to attract one crappy relationship after the next. The person changes, but the actual fundamentals of the relationship are the same because that's what they believe they are worthy of. If you want to attract what you're worthy of, you have to raise your standard. You have to raise your expectancy. You have to raise your worth. And they don't magically happen. I wish we had like a magic wand that I could just make that all go away for you. But we have to work on ourselves. We have to work on reprogramming our limiting beliefs. We have to take care of ourselves so we feel good in our body, that we have more energy. And shift your fundamental core beliefs to know that you are worthy. I have some fundamental core beliefs. Things like I always say to myself, money comes to me easily and effortlessly. It does. I can tell you so many different stories of the way I tracked it. Even when I did my personal training course, they had a prize of, we went for an info night. And if you went to the info night, you had a chance of winning $4,000 towards your PT course. And I said to my husband, I'm going to win that. I would drive around and I would imagine them pulling my name out of the hat. I would imagine how it's going to feel so good that part of my course is going to be paid for. I visualized it. I felt it. I felt like I imagined like it already happened. And I did. I got my name drawn out and I won that $4,000 off my course. Lots of random things like that has happened because I believe I am worthy of it. There are still things that I'm working on my beliefs that I don't have yet, because I believe if my beliefs were completely pure and I didn't have any blocks, I would have everything I wanted. There are still things I don't have that I'm still working on, that I need to keep working on myself. And that is what we do until the day we die. And you know why? I've raised my standards. I keep raising. I keep shifting the ball. I keep raising the expectancy of what I want to bring into my life, what I'm worthy of, what I can achieve, how I can serve more people, what I can do. I keep raising the benchmark. So I have to raise my beliefs to grow with that. I keep raising my desires of what I want, not because I want more stuff, but because I want to live a more fulfilling life. So I have to raise my raise my beliefs, my thoughts in alignment with that new desire. So it's that constant work. So what do I do when I don't feel good or I'm in a funk? I do things to make me feel good. I go and change my state. It could be a workout, could be going out in nature, could be doing a meditation, could be reading a book, pulling an oracle card, getting in nature. I think I said that. Doing things that make me feel alive, that make me feel joy, spending time with my family, things that actually make me feel good. I do those things and it helps shift my state in the moment. And then I sit in gratitude. I sit in so much gratitude, but I could give you so many examples of free things or things that have just fallen into my lap. But I know they didn't just fall into my lap. I know it's because I've done the work on myself. And that is what I want to encourage you in this episode, to do the work on yourself. And then guess what? One day it won't be work all the time. You start to fall in love with taking care of yourself. You start to fall in love with exercise. You start to fall in love with the peacefulness of meditation. You don't have to do all these things every single day. What can I do today? If it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, to put me in that better feeling state, to raise my state, to make me feel good, to make me feel a little bit happier, to do things that fill my cup up. That's why I want to encourage you to do these things, girls, because this body has been given to us so that we may learn and grow spiritually. We are responsible for our creations. We have choice where we invest our time, where we invest our energy, how we care for ourselves, who we listen to around protecting our energy. That is all choice. That is all free will. But this will all form part of the manifestation process. I'm telling you, the more that you get clear on who you are, what your values are, what you want, what you are worthy of, the more you take care of yourself, it will help ripple out into every area of your life. That is why I'm so passionate about teaching women to exercise. It's not the exercise, girls. It's the how it lines things up for you. It's how it gets you in a better feeling state. It's how it helps in your relationships, your marriage, teaching your kids, bringing more of what you want into your life, raising your worth, raising your confidence, empowering you. That is why I want you to work on yourself spiritually. You find your values. You really raise your belief in yourself. You get more aligned with your heart and soul. You start living from your heart. And that is where your real fundamental core desires come from, is getting in alignment with your heart. Stripping away the ego, the comparison, the worrying about what everyone else is doing. I have to look this way to fit in or to compete. I'm sick of that. Get rid of all that and get back to who you are, what makes you feel good, what lights you up. Because I'm telling you, my friends, when you get so connected with yourself, that is what I want you to do, all these things. The workouts, the getting out in nature, the journaling, the meditation, all of those things, the spiritual work, they get you back to connected with your heart and soul, which helps you manifest more of what you want. And remember, manifestation, you co-create with the universe. It is this part that you have to play your part. You absolutely have to do all those things that I have shared with you in these last few episodes, having the desires, believing in yourself, believing you are worthy, and then receiving, getting out of your way so that you can receive. And I encourage you, go to some of those tools that I've told you in the last episode. Read the books, take on board the content. Stop watching TV, rubbish on TV, or doing things scrolling on social media that don't fill you up, that don't impact your time in a really effective way. Do things that are going to add value to your time, that are going to add value to your life, because you are worth it. You can have your heart and soul's desires, my friends. You absolutely can, but you need to take the best care of yourself, because you are worth it. Your family is worth it. It's just your life that we're talking about here. And I'm telling you, you don't notice it now, but years of doing these things, 5 years, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the track, you are just going to have so much more of what you want. You're going to be so much more fulfilled, so much more happier, because you have gotten rid of the guilt of taking care of yourself. You are starting to invest in yourself. It is so worth it, my friends. It's been something I've been doing for a long time. Like I said, over 15 years. I want to encourage you to do the same, because this honestly helps you in the manifestation process. Have a beautiful day, angels, and I will chat with you in the next episode. Bye.